Good morning, friends. We continue to roll on in our series, Foundations of Faith from the Big Fisherman. What can we learn from the life of the disciple Peter? Today, we have a fascinating story. We pick up in Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 35. What's happening here? Well, in 35, we see that James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus and said, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask." Okay, this is like when a child knows that a parent is going to say no to some request, but comes up to them and tries to trick the parent and says, "Hey, the next thing I ask, do you promise you'll say yes to?" And so they continue. Jesus goes, "What do you want me to do for you?" They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right hand and the other at your left in your glory." This is an incredibly prideful and arrogant request. They are getting Jesus off by themselves out of earshot from the other disciples, and they want Jesus to promise them the places of honor in eternity. This is fascinating that they would make such a prideful and arrogant request, because just a few verses before, we see this teaching from Jesus. What's happening here is, just rewind to Mark 10, starting in verse 13, and we see this. People were bringing little children to Jesus to have him bless them, but the disciples rebuked them. The disciples were saying, "No, okay, it's adults only. Come on, kids, get out of here." I mean, children and women in this society were second-class citizens to be seen and not heard, to be talked to, respond only when talked to. And so they're saying, come on. Men are over here learning. And Jesus rebuked them and said, "Let the little children come unto me, and do not stop them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it." What is Jesus talking about? You know, children can be tough. I mean, we're living in quarantine life, and so my daughter right now is really pushing the boundaries of obedience, and it's a battle. However, what is Jesus really talking about here? Children are teachable. Children are at an age where they are still teachable. They are not hard of heart. They do not have a prideful attitude like, "I know everything already." If a mom and dad teaches a kid something, they accept it because they look at the parents as with love and respect and appreciation, and they accept it with humility, and they're teachable. Okay, so now fast forward back to this request of James and John. Jesus just told the disciples and anybody who could listen, you will not be able to even inherit the kingdom of God unless you are humble and teachable like a little child. And then these two go and say, "Hey, when we get to the kingdom of God, can we have the place of honor?" Jesus says this, "You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink?" And then, so he's talking about, you don't know what's coming, the crucifixion, all these things. I'm going to sacrifice my life to be raised up. Now, when the 10 heard about this, the 10 other disciples, I'm in verse 41, they became indignant with James and John. So Jesus called them together and said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentile lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to be the greatest among you must be your servant." And there it is again. He's teaching them about humility and teachability. James and John make this prideful request, and then all the pride of the other disciples comes up because they are furious that James and John would make this high request. And so Jesus has to have another come to Jesus meeting with the disciples where he tells them, in my kingdom, in the kingdom of God, we are not going to behave like this. Humility is the key ingredient for the day. So we have this awesome picture of pride versus humility. Here's the point for today. Pride destroys while humility raises up. For those who exalt themselves and lift themselves up and think that there's something great and always bragging about what they're doing and I deserve this and I deserve this, you will be brought low. But to those who are humble and bow the knee to God in respect, reverence, humility, and love, you will be raised up with Jesus. Why? Because Jesus' example is he laid down his life in the ultimate act of humility so that others may live. Well, I hope this is helpful for you today. There is danger in a prideful attitude, but the Lord loves a humble heart. Hope this helps. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.